Alright then gang, so in the last lesson we created this title component, a reusable component. We put that inside the lib folder and then we used that in both pages, the home page and the about page right here. Now this is fine, but what if we had 10, 20, 30, 40 or even more pages? Then what we'd have to do is we'd have to import the title component on each of those pages and we'd have to use that component as well. Now this is fine, but it might get a bit tiresome and it's a little bit unnecessary, to be honest. And also, if you changed where the title was on every page, you'd have to change every individual page component. That's a lot of work. So instead, what we can do to combat this is create what's known as a layout component. And a layout component wraps our page components, and they contain different elements or different parts of a template that would be common to every page. Now, every page in this website could have a title and also a footer. So those things would go inside the layout component, and those things would then wrap every other page component that we have. So in order to create a layout component, we go to the routes folder, right click, new file, and then it's underscore, and then it's called layout.svelte. So these double underscores, they tell SvelteKit, look, this is not a normal page component. So you wouldn't go to /layout in the address bar and hit enter.
Let's see if that still holds. So it's using the load function. I don't think this is the same one. Page.js, page server.js, error, plus layout. Okay. Let children be structured be the props, and if we say render children, so you load. Okay. Okay. I see. Okay, let's continue.
To get a layout page instead. Okay, double
Wait.
underscore twice first.
Because you guys don't understand what's going on, let me explain what's going on. So basically, the plus layout svelte is a special kind of page that can render each code on every page ever. So that is what it's gonna do. Now this is not my favorite thing to do, because then it's also gonna be on each page ever, but you don't want that, right? You have certain pages where you do not want that, so that's very interesting. But for a single page application, so one page or multi-page application, you kind of do want this. So this is a special kind of layout svelte. We're gonna remember this, but we'll see. So when you make pages in the roots, like about and settings, this one will always be available. It's just rendered across all pages.
Now I know that.
Now in the old svelte it is like underscore layout svelte, but let's see how we code this.
This is a special layout component. So a layout component is pretty much the same as any other Svelte component. It contains a script a template, and also some styles. And then down prop, we'll set it equal to Ninja Gaming. And we'll have a main tag. Now inside the main tag, this is where I want basically all of the page content to go, right? We'll come back to that in a minute though. Now down here at the bottom of every page will be a footer, and inside that we'll do a paragraph tag, and I'll just say copyright 2022 Ninja Gaming Guides, like so. Alright, so now this right here, this is where I want the page content to go. So if I go to /, I get the index component dropped in here. If I go to / about, I get the about component dropped in here. Now the way we do that inside SvelteKit is by just using a special tag called slot, not slowuter or saluter, slot. Okay, that's not going to work. Let me just do this manually. Slot, like so. And when SvelteKit sees this, it looks for the page component that we're currently at the address for. So if I was at / about, it would look for the about component, and it places it right here where the slot tag is. All right. So then, that's pretty much it.
Let's see if that still holds. But then we have to go to the page. Let me look for a slot. Where am I? I'm in model as well. And it's legacy APIs, so it doesn't count for SvelteKit. Yeah, it's legacy, so we're not using that. Forget about that.
But we do want some styles as well, and I'm just going to paste those in at the bottom. So we say we have a header up here, should switch to the middle. We now see two titles. We see the one at the top, and this is coming from the layout component, and also we see the footer coming from the layout component. And this one here is because we also have the title component embedded into the individual pages. So right now we're on the about page. We see all the about content in the middle, which is where that slot tag was. So that's working at least. But we do see this title component again. We'll get rid of that in a second. If we go to the home component again, we see the layout is working. We have the title at the top. We have the main content in the middle where the slot would be. And then at the bottom, we have the footer. Awesome. So we just need to get rid of the extra title components. But also, I want to show you how we can add in some global styles as well. So then first things first, let's go to these other page components and get rid of the import right here for the title. And we can get rid of the title there as well. Then in the about page, get rid of the import and get rid of the title component. All right, so now we shouldn't see those titles duplicated. Now the other thing I wanted to quickly show you is how we add some global styles in here, because say for example I wanted to style the body tag. How would I do that? Well, I can't place a body selector in here because the body tag is not in this template. The body tag is actually just here, right? So what I could do is I could add the styles directly here if I wanted to in this page inside the head, or what I could do is I could create a global style sheet inside the source folder, and then that would be imported just at the top right here. And when it imports that style sheet, it's just going to place those styles in the head of our document. So let me do this. Let me go to the source folder. I'm going to create a new folder called styles. You don't have to call it styles. You don't even have to put it in this folder. I'm going to do it just for organization. And then I'm going to create a new file called global.css. And then inside.
Alright, let me take some notes. So what happened? Well, there doesn't seem to be a standard way to import CSS, Tailwind, or any other library, but the icon though, which is not important. So I'm gonna write down that app.html needs to have CSS, like in the, I'm not sure where it is. Where does he does that? In the roots in the source folder. Okay, so source CSS, and then you can say global dot CSS, and then we put all styles, right, including tailwind over there. Okay, then we have something called layout dot svelte. So let's go back to that here. And this is how we wanted it, right? Great. Something like that. So it's across all pages.
Inside this global CSS file, we can place whatever CSS that we want. Now, I'm just going to go to my repo and I'm just going to copy all of these. Woohoo! So let me just copy them and paste them over here. Family is this thing, Ripple global styles CSS file, and that's all we need to do.
Okay, so let's think about it. He imports to the layout as well, but it can also be in the app.html. So where do you want to import it? When is it important to import it? Well, I think the layout is actually a good idea to do that. So let's change that stuff, and let's then put it like right here or something, right? Now I'm not sure how to do it with the prop. I'm gonna think about that for a second. I let the AI figure that out.
Nothing else needs doing with this now.
But the problem is that we cannot do it individually unless we scope.
And in fact, I need to get rid of that body at the bottom. Page. Not really that nice, but it does look record title page component, even if those page components are nested in other folders like this one is.
While I let that load, I'm gonna ask DeepSeek insult get. What is the best way to load CSS component scoped. Okay, I think this is the best way. To do it in the svelte. Oh, this is the CSS. Are you familiar with Tailwind version 4? How is it okay. No, we don't need to create that. Assume, okay then, let's continue. Let's continue.
Alright then gang, so in the last lesson we created this layout file, and this layout file wrapped all of our different page components, and the page component content went wherever this slot tag is right here inside the layout file. Now, like I said, this layout component wrapped every single page component that we have. So these two down here, about an index, but also those inside the guides folder. And if we were to create other folders and other page components inside those folders, it would wrap those as well. But sometimes different pages on your site might need a different layout. For example, inside the guides folder, all of the different pages inside here, they might want a slightly different layout. So to do that, we have to make what's known as a reset layout, and that's what we're going to do in this lesson. Now, a reset layout is just basically another layout component, and we place it inside whatever folder wants a new layout for those components. So I want it inside this guides folder, so I'm going to create a new file, and then instead of it just being called layout.svelte, it's __ layout.reset.svelte. And this tells SvelteKit that, hey, for
So why is that useless? The reason why it's useless is because we don't have that anymore in the recent version, so we can skip that entirely. Let me verify that. Reset. Nothing, you see? Alright.
Alright then, so far we've seen how to create pages, nested routes, reusable components, and layout files as well. Next up, I want to bring external data into the party because sometimes our applications need to reach out to an API endpoint or maybe a database to fetch some data and then inject that data into component templates so we can see it on the page. So where would we do this? Where would we fetch the data? Well, the best place to do it is inside a separate script tag in whatever page component needs the data. For example, I might want to list out a bunch of gaming guides in the guides index page. So what I do is create a new script tag inside this guides index component, and it's inside this script tag that we'd go out and fetch the data we need. And this script tag needs to have an attribute called context, and that's equal to a value of module. Now, this script tag would be in addition to the script tag you might already have in your component, and it's a special script as marked by this context attribute. This is how Svelte distinguishes between the two. So it's inside this one with a context attribute equal to module that we'd fetch any data that's needed for this component. Now inside this script we have a special function called load, and it's an asynchronous function. And it must be called load. This is a special SvelteKit function. and we use this function to fetch any data. And SvelteKit can run this function automatically to go out and fetch any data that's needed for this component. So this function load takes in an argument automatically, which is a context object. And on that context object is a few different things. One of those things is the fetch function, because out of the box, the fetch API is meant for the browser. Now this context object exposes it for us on the server too, so that we can use it inside this load function, because this script can run on the server to fetch the data so it can pre-render our templates. So we need that fetch API, if you like, exposed to us so we can use it. Otherwise there'd be an error, because normally you can't run the fetch API on the server, right? So this script can also run in the browser as well, but we're going to talk more about that later on. But anyway, down here, if I wanted to use the fetch function, I could just say context.fetch to invoke that fetch function and go and fetch some resource. But instead what I'm going to do is just destructure it up here directly from the context arguments. And then if I wanted to, I could just invoke it inside the function by saying fetch, like so. So all we need to do inside this function then is fetch some data and then return it. So to fetch the data, we're going to be using something called JSON placeholder, which is a fake API for testing and prototyping. So it gives us a load of different endpoints that we can use to fetch some dummy data, essentially. So I'm going to leave the link to this website down below. And if we scroll down here, we're going to see a load of different endpoints that we can use for different resources. So say, for example, I want to use this posts resource. The endpoint for this is this thing up here. And you can see all of this JSON data right here. So each post is an object, and for each post we have a title, body, ID, and a user ID. Now if we want to get all the posts, we'd use this endpoint. If we want a single post, we'd say / and then the ID of the post. For example, this one, ID of 3. So if I place that in and press enter, we just get back that one single post. All right. So this is the endpoint that we're going to use for our project. So what I'm going to do is place inside the fetch function this endpoint as a string. Now also, since this is an asynchronous function, I can await this. So I'll place await in front of it, not in capitals, await like so. And then I'm going to store the response in a constant. So I'm going to say const, and I'll call it res for response and set it equal to this. So this response object now has a JSON method on it, which we can call, and that will pass the response into an object for us that we can use. So what I'm going to do is say const guides and set that equal to await again, because the JSON method is asynchronous, and I'm going to say response.json like so. So now guides will be an array of objects that we can use inside our templates. But how do we, first of all, get this data, this guide stuff, and use it inside here? Because just because we've fetched it right here, we can't automatically use it in the template. What we have to do is we need to return the guides as a prop, which we then accept as a prop inside this other script. So first of all, I want to check that the response is okay. Now this response object has an okay property on it, and it's true if the response is okay and we have that data, and it's false if it's not okay, when there's been something wrong. So I'm going to say if response.okay, then we're going to do something. Now the thing we're going to do is return an object, and inside this object is a props property, which is also an object. And now we can have as many props as we want injected into our component, and they are just different properties. So I could have a hello prop if I wanted to, and that could be anything. It could just be a string, hello there. Now I don't want to do this. Instead what I want is a guides prop, and that is going to be equal to the guides up here, like so. Now since this and this is named the same, we can shorten this, and this does exactly the same thing. Alright, so we're returning the guides as a prop, but that's only if the response is okay. If the response is not okay, it's going to carry on, have an error property, the status property on inside this script. We just say export. Now to cycle through an array of items in Svelte, we say curly braces, then hash, then each, and then we need to end the each, and we do that where the href for now is just going to be /. Alright, so now we're cycling through the guides that we get back up here, and for each one of the guides we output an li tag, and inside that an anchor tag and the guides component, and not some gigantic error because I've cocked something up. So view guides, yep, and we see all of them. awesome. And there's a hell of a lot of them, 100 in total, I think. So these are all coming from JSON placeholder. So we're into go to the homepage. Now, what I want to do is create some kind of detail.
Okay. So let's go to loading data. Before the page Svelte component and a containing latent Svelte component can be rendered, we often need to get some data. This is done by defining the load function. A page of Svelte can have a symling page.js that exports a load function. Interesting. Return what value which is available to the page via the data prop. Okay, so import type load data from types. Okay, that's just type safety. Yeah, okay. Advert const load is page load with params. Return post, and the post is containing title and content. Okay. Okay. And this is how you do it on a database. Okay. Um, okay, I have no idea what's going on here with the dollar app. Did I miss something? Yes. Okay, I get the types. I understand that. But where I go wrong is here. But anyways, yeah, it's more complex, right? The page.swell component and each layer.swell component above it has access to its own data from the parents. In some cases we need the opposite. A parent layout might need to access page data or data from a child layout. For example, the root layout might want to access a title property returned from a load function in the page.js or page service. This can be done with page data. I have no idea, no clue what's going on here. I have no idea. Like I understand that you're importing data, but how would you know, right? What is this? I and it says comes from page.data, so I have no idea. It's let the AI figure that out. explain. Why are you using stores? Right? So it's very new. It's new. Okay, so let's read the first one. This is what component latent types is, indicated by the lengthiness that manages the document using spelled build using spelled head element. Let me break it down. Nextjs imports the page and okay. I get the concept, but you need to know what's available, right? No, I'm lost. Oh, fuck. But there's a lot of stuff going on here. So it's cookies and what's unclear to me is that, so if I just import page from app.stage, I can use like page date title. But then I wanna know what this is, right? Then I wanna know what app.state is. What was available, right? So yes, but I need to know what is available, right? Because that doesn't state it. And then we also have an app stored. How do I know this is available? How do I know that? Bad guide. Bad. That's really bad. Okay, all these are the only ones. So do I need to make a separate page or something? No, apparently not. Okay, I get it. Decently. So what it's saying is that this app.state or that page that stores or whatever, app.stores, app.state, they are the same. And there's certain properties available, such as data, params, URL, root, status, and error. So if you go back here, then we could say, hey, params ID is available because we said params ID is available here. And here, page.data, we will just use this, and then we could say, hey, page.data.title. Data loaded from page.js. Um, okay. But that doesn't make any sense for me yet. Um, data post content. We don't have that. Oh, we do have that. But the content wasn't clear for me. And why is it using HTML? Is this legacy mode? No, it's not legacy mode. What the fuck is this? Well, this is specific for blogs. I'm not gonna bother. But then, why why would you do that? Because I'm just gonna ask. So you do need to make a separate page data. Let me see. So I need a separate page called page.data. I don't think so. It's gonna do page.js. But okay, why would you do that? Wouldn't you want the name and put it as the document title. Okay, so using page data.title in layers as well means every page can define its own title in page.js and will automatically update it. Example about sets about us. So automatic updates the title but not yeah. That's not automatically, sir. Okay, so what if I don't have a page.js? What would the title be? Undefined? Fuck off. What if I don't use out of stores? Just make page.swap in about folder. What would the slug be? And what would the document title be? Yeah, but that's manually. Okay, the best way to know this is to test it myself. Okay, test app.stores. I have to go now, but good. See you later.